Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. We're going to get kicked off a little bit differently this morning. I got a couple of things to do in the background. We're going to listen to, I think, Dick Fracassi and the XM Morning Crew.
Hey, bring some juice to that, dog.
This is the opening drive. Here's Solomon Wilcox and Christian Fourier.
I'll be on in a few moments.
And good morning, everyone, on this Wednesday morning edition of the opening drive. The NFL informs Brandon Sorsby it will not hold a supplemental draft this year. What will that mean for the respective college quarterback looking to enter the NFL? We'll have all sides of that story and more coming up. But first, let's say hello and good morning to my co-host, two-time Super Bowl champion, Mr. Christian Fourier. Christian, how you doing this morning?
Oh, good morning, he's Solly. And here I am, think that we're in the doldrums of the NFL calendar. And lo and behold, we have one of the bigger stories of the year so far. How about that?
Big story is that's one way to describe it. When this story broke yesterday, I don't want to say I was stunned. I was surprised, but I didn't think the NFL would accept the application for a myriad of reasons. And let's just dive into the facts right now. The NFL has informed Texas Tech quarterback Brandon Sorsby it will not hold a supplemental draft in 2026. It makes him ineligible to enter the league until 2027, when they will hold the draft in April. Now, the league stated it had not had prior plans to hold a draft this year, at least a supplemental draft this summer, citing logistical and competitive integrity issues regarding his application. Now, the NFL made this decision after Sorsby, who admitted to placing thousands of dollars in wagers on sports, including on his own team while he was at Indiana, attempted to jump to the pros and avoid NCAA penalties. The NFL Management Council sent the letter to Sorsby and his attorneys and all 32 teams, noting that no other players had sought to enter into the supplemental draft this summer. That his petition came too late without proper supporting information. They did cite integrity concerns, and that was the main issue. And of course, Sorsby's attorney, Jeffrey Kessler, argued the decision was a violation of the collective bargaining agreement and indicated they would pursue the matter with the NFLPA, Christian. So that's where we stand right now.
Yeah. So, see, last week when we were discussing this, you're correct. You didn't think they would accept the application. I thought they would accept the application. I just thought that they would accept it and then drop the hammer on them, right? Like, okay, we'll let you in, let somebody draft you, but then you're going through a new version of quarterback rehab. Like we have the ones that we talk about all the time, the Sam Darnolds, the Baker Mayfields, that type of quarterback rehab. This is a legit different type of quarterback rehab. And this is what the NFL likes to do. This is them showing their power. This is them teaching you a lesson. This is them saying acts of contrition are valuable. And I'm the captain now. That whole thing, that, Captain Phillips movie. This is Roger Goodell saying, I'm the captain now. You tried to circumvent some rules. You tried to fast track it. No, that's not going to happen with us. So to me, first of all, I think they got it right, Solly. I'll admit that. I think they got it right. But I would have been fine with them admitting him and then suspending him. But either way, this is a 1-year suspension that the NFL has levied on Brandon Sorsby. Okay, that's the way I'm viewing it. But I'm not surprised that they just didn't accept it, and that they're going to basically let him wait, because more than anything, the NFL likes to teach a lesson. They don't like guys who try to circumvent the rules. They've had a long-standing relationship with college football, even though it's not written down. If you do something wrong and you can't just hide and, dodge some sort of punishment and run to the NFL, cross the border and seek some sort of sanctuary for your crimes, which he is guilty of. Regardless, I don't care what he's guilty. He admitted it. Or ignore what he did. So ultimately, I mean, I thought there was going to be some version of this penalty directed at him, but that's what I think it is ultimately. Just we can get into
pretty interesting stuff, man. So this morning, or last night, I caught wind of the decision by the NFL not to hold a supplemental draft, and just kind of like what they just said, man. It's exacting a 1-year suspension on Sorsby without having to bring him into the league and then suspend him. I don't know, the legal things surrounding this with the NFLPA or, how this really conflicts with the CBA. It is what it is, man. I think either way, if he would have been able to have a supplemental draft, would he have been taken? I heard that the Cowboys were going to put in an offer sheet, and that was the only team that I heard. And that's because Jerry Jones loves controversy. He loves any media. He's from the old school of, all publicity, bad or good, is good publicity. So there's that. We're going to kick off this morning with a few things, and we'll do that right now.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down again.
Okay, let's ignore the topics. I had a computer issue last night. Still have a computer issue. One of my fans, a couple of my fans actually, decided to take a shit. So I was overheating like crazy. Couldn't get it fixed this morning. It's limping along until my fans get here. So if I cut out today, you know why. It is what it is. But good morning. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Want to get to a few topics that we couldn't get to yesterday. And a few other topics. So big news this morning about Sam Laporta. Well, last night about Sam Laporta and his health update. It's more of what is Sam doing next, kind of an update that really gives us this health update. So we'll talk about Sam Laporta this morning. I do want to listen to a couple of the Meet the Media. I know they're from last week, about a week old, June 17th. But I want to hear from Derek Moore. And kind of just chop it up with y'all and see what Derek Moore's talking about. Anything we can kind of take away from his time, through OTAs and minicamp this year, and where he's progressing. The internal competition we started to touch on yesterday, and how important it is really that the Lions have such a deep roster this year. And they really have done an excellent job at having a deep roster every year. And there's something that I didn't hit yesterday that maybe I'll just talk about it briefly right now. When you look at the teams that do very well between free agency and off-season pickups and transitioning their roster to a new roster each and every year, there are teams that every single season they have to convert contracts to signing bonuses. And that's not a good place to live, right? Every year that you're doing that and you're kicking the can, it's not a good place to live. And there are some teams that do it really well, and the Lions are one of them. This was the first year that the Lions really had to convert a large contract into some signing bonus money to free up some cash to do a few things. The Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and they're one of the top 5 teams in the league with not having to do this type of stuff, right? The Chargers. They don't have to do this stuff. The Rams don't even have to do this kind of stuff. So, and not to say that they haven't, but to a lesser degree have, those teams converted much by ways of contracts to signing bonuses. So I wanted to really kind of tip my cap to Brad Holmes because he's gone through 5 seasons, now entering his 6th season, where he finally had to convert. It was expected. They're probably going to have to do it again next year. And if you're doing it with 1 player or 2 players, I don't think that it's that big of a deal when those players are the players you're expected to lead the team. So big ups to Brad and the team, the financial team over there in Allen Park for making these things happen the way that they have with the contracts and being structurally sound so that the Lions can continue to add good players sign good players, keep the good players that they've drafted. And they're in a very unique situation. I know there's been a lot of Brad, Holmes hate, and maybe that'll start to dissipate this season because we finally got, a few pieces in other areas that a lot of fans really wanted. But this year, I honestly believe that this was a needs kind of a draft. It was a needs kind of a year, and it might have been the first year that they've really done that. I will firmly state that I don't believe Brad chose BPA. There's no way he chose BPA in this draft. But I think he did an excellent job. And hopefully some of these players really pan out. But moving forward, the Lions are in a great situation. And in the cap, look, it's not going to get any easier, especially when you sign players like Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta. Coming up soon, Brian Branch hopefully can get done this year. But hey, what happens after you sign those players? And we talked about it yesterday. The health of Jahmyr Gibbs and the workload on Jahmyr Gibbs' shoulders and the future of Jahmyr Gibbs. It all stems from this season. And moving forward, what is Jahmyr Gibbs' role really going to be? How is he going to have a major impact on this offense and help this team win a Super Bowl and stay healthy, right? Because that's the big deal. If you sign him to a big deal and you run him through the ringer and he's all of a sudden not healthy, that's not going to help the team. So I still think that the Lions are going to need to be active in finding another running back or promoting from within if they feel like they have the talent to do that. And hopefully, as I expect, Isaiah Pacheco will check all the boxes this season. He's a damn good running back. He's been through a couple of injuries. I think three injuries really throughout his career. And outside of that, he's been fairly healthy, but a major leg injury is a major leg injury, and especially to a running back, it doesn't help their case moving forward with playing to their speed or the way that they play the game. So I think he's in a good place, and I think that the Lions made a great move by bringing him in. But the future, I think, is bright behind Jahmyr Gibbs and adjacent to Jahmyr Gibbs, that the Lions are going to be able to surround him with like-minded players that can, play to his ability as well, because it's all about keeping the right players in the offense on the field and keeping the defense guessing. So, what else did I want to get to today? We'll kind of break, a few of these things down. So we'll get to Sam Laporta. Kind of just throw out my case for Brad Holmes there about the contract situation and, really being the first year that they've really had to do anything like that. It's expected moving forward. I don't know which players that'll come with next, but I think Jared Goff next year again will probably have some sort of a signing bonus conversion potentially. We'll talk about the division this morning, the NFC North, how the national conversation is shaping up. What are people kind of thinking about the Packers, the Bears, and the Vikings? Kind of get your thoughts on what you're thinking about those three teams. Look, the NFC North is by and large the toughest division in the NFL right now. And maybe it's teeter-tottering on what have you done for me lately kind of a season last year. And this season will maybe either set the bar or it could completely, fall apart and go the other way too. At any rate, I think that the Lions are going to be at the top of the division. It's the question of, does Minnesota find a quarterback? Does Caleb Williams continue to get better? He has a long way to go. I mean, 15, 16% completion rate, more than what he had last year is expected this year. And so how is Ben Johnson going to nullify, what happened last season? And then, quite simply for the Packers, I mean, they've just been kind of an average team with an average quarterback, good wide receiver play at times, nothing really stable in the running back room. So we'll kind of figure that out, and where their rosters are headed this season. And then we already talked about Brandon, or you heard Brandon Sorsby's story this morning. The NFL decided to really kind of suspend him, if you will, by not allowing the supplemental draft. So a lot of Lions fans, for some reason, thought that Brandon Sorsby was going to be a Lion, not going to be a Lion. And it is what it is. It is what it is. I didn't expect it, but now we'll never know. We'll never know because the supplemental draft didn't happen. What else is out there today? I know I got a whole list of things here. I just got to find it. Just got to pull it up. But anyway, how y'all doing this morning? Hope y'all doing great on this. What are we, Wednesday today already? I think we finally found our house yesterday. So we went and looked at this home yesterday afternoon. May not be building now because there's really no need to at this house. It's insane. And all I can think about is the massive football parties that we are going to be able to host, and y'all are going to be invited. So it's going to be fun. I plan on if everything goes the way that we expect it to go, and we can wrap this thing up, then I will definitely have a massive housewarming party on a football day with the podcast rolling, and it'll be a fun time. We'll do a massive barbecue, and then we'll just host them every year. We'll do all sorts of events there. The Rocktown Cancer Foundation events. We'll do some training camp events. We'll do all sorts of stuff, man. Super Bowl party would, if we're not in the Super Bowl, because I would love to be there. Massive Super Bowl parties. It's gonna be a great time. So it takes all the stress away from not having to build, moving into something that you can buy. But it's a little scary at the top of the market right now. A little scary with everything going on. Yesterday's topics that we didn't get to. One sec. My hat's falling apart. There's a little thing falling off. Yesterday's topics that we didn't get to, I really wanted to go over, the DB room again and taking a little harder look at what's going on there. We talked about Juice Scruggs, and I'll probably mention him a little bit today too because I didn't really talk about it. I think that there's a real option or opportunity here for Juice Scruggs to either beat out Mahogany when the pads come on, or be utilized as trade bait later on in the season, if needed, if the Lions, keep him around. I don't think he's going to go anywhere as long as he stays healthy. I think he's going to be a great addition to that offensive line. And so it'll be interesting to see how Brad utilizes a player for once that maybe, has a lot of value, especially if he shows it in the preseason, and what the Lions may or may not be looking for when, depending on injuries. Don't want to have injuries in camp. It usually happens. Don't want to have it. But if something were to happen, how is he going to position himself? And honestly, I don't know if I really want to lose a good player on the offensive line because the offensive line needs to be the offensive line of the old this year. It needs to be, at the top. I think Eric said yesterday, top 15. Look, we really need to be in the top 10 every single year. You're not going to win a Super Bowl unless you have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, or very close to that. Top 5 offense mainly. Top 10 defense can do it, has done it. And over the last 15, 20 years, there's only been the last 2 seasons where the defense might have been better than the offense that have won the Super Bowl. And that's telling you something because this is an offensive league. And that's exactly why Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have invested so heavily into the offensive side of the football. You can never have enough offense. You just have to have the right OC, apparently, because last year things didn't go as well. So depth chart reset with Juice Scruggs. Let's talk about him this morning. Safety room, DB room. Kind of sucks I wasn't able to get on at all yesterday and get all my things pulled together. Barely got the PC moving this morning. A couple more things I want to pull down here real quick. Just got to look through all my notes. All right, let's talk camp. Let's talk camp for a moment. So yesterday, the schedule came out. Wrote an article on some of the developments. Again, trying to get out a couple of articles every day, as long as there's something to talk about. And so yesterday, it's the fierce battle that is going to happen at training camp. And then I noticed something that was different this year. And I think last year we had a couple more LLM or Lions Loyal member training camp dates. This year we have at least 4. So big ups to the Lions, man. They heard the complaints, and the complaints are, you need to treat us better. You know, we've supported this team for a long time. Having season tickets is kind of a rite of passage as a Lions fan now. And it costs a lot of money, you know, especially when you have 10 seats. It costs a lot of money. And, you know, big ups to my dad for managing this for all of these years, you know, ever since my grandfather started this whole thing, you know, way back when, you know, after World War II, you know, moving to Detroit and, you know, setting his foundation in the greater Detroit area, West Bloomfield, and starting this whole thing. So August 2nd is when the loyalty, we're back together kind of weekend starts. So that'll be August 2nd at 7:30 a.m. Let's see if I can throw this up on the board for y'all. I hate being unorganized. Can't stand it. It's gonna be the nice thing about this house, man. Like, over 6,000 square feet of space is insane. And when 3,600 plus of it is a giant garage that's heated with multiple workshops, like, my God. Like, I'm going to have space for days. Super excited about that. All right, let's take a look at this schedule here for practice, training camp. Now, if you're in this article today, if you take a look at it, if you click on the camp schedule, it'll actually bring you to the Lions website. I'm trying to work in some new things here, so it'll bring you right into their website. But Lions Loyal tickets, they start, the claim process the email will be sent on July 15th, and then you can start to claim your tickets. And so then there's July 21st at 10 a.m. is when the rest of the tickets go on, public auction, if you will, because you got to get in line. And I get lucky every year to be able to get multiple tickets to be able to give away. I've given away over 100 training camp tickets the last 3 seasons, each and every season, and we're hoping to do it again this year. We'll see how it goes. But the most important thing is getting a cancer warrior out there and give them a jersey like I did last year, and give them a day, at Allen Park. Not everybody has the wherewithal to be able to get the tickets, so I always set aside a group of 4, and then a couple for myself to be able to do that. And last year we were able to do that for somebody, and so it means a lot to us to be able to include them in things like this. So let's see. August 3rd will be the second day for general public. August 4th is general public, both at 7:30 in the morning. August 6th is general public at 7:30, and then August 7th will be another Lions Loyal Member Day at 9:30. August 10 will be general public, and then August 11th is a private partner day, so that's when they bring in all their sponsors, supporters, donors, so that's a big day for them. August 16th, another Lions Loyal Member Day. August 17th, another Lions Loyal Day. And then August 19th, we'll finish with general public. And then if you go into the giveaways here on the Lions website, it tells you what they're giving away. And it's kind of cool. The first, or for all the Lions Loyal events, they're giving away this zippered, proof tote for the game. So you can bring all your stuff in. So that's pretty cool of them to give this away. I can't even remember what they gave away last year. But then they're doing some sunglasses for the 3rd, the 4th, the 11th. They're doing some keychains and some thunder sticks. So they could step up the giveaways a little bit. And there might be some other, hosts there or some sponsors there doing things. Like last year, I think they were giving away cases, like little cases of mandarin oranges and things of that nature. So they always do something kind of neat. I don't think I ate one of those oranges. I think I threw them away, honestly. Felt kind of bad about it. So yesterday, training camp opens to fans. Lions announced 10 training camp practices that will be open to the fans this summer, obviously with multiple sessions available to the general public. And then we just kind of went over, how many are going to be available for the Lions Loyal members. So big shout out to the Lions for doing that. I think it's I think it's pretty cool that they're expanding it for us and giving back to the community that supports them so well. But let's get into Juice Scruggs. He's continuing to climb up this season. He's had a great offseason and OTA period into minicamp. And I think, like I said in my article, few players really helped them as much as Juice Scruggs did. There's going to be an intense battle there. You're talking a veteran versus Mahogany. Mahogany entering his third season. Really, it's his second full season, second full training camp. And this is going to be a fierce battle. I think Mahogany has the goods to play the position at left guard. He was my prediction for that spot, prior to free agency. I felt that he would be, the guy that would be competing. Obviously, Tate Ratledge would be stuck at right guard. And so now, the battle starts, right? So when the Lions were able to acquire him through the trade for David Montgomery with the Houston Texans, a lot of people viewed him as a, versatile offensive line depth, not a starter. And by the end of minicamp, he had worked all the way or at all three interior offensive line positions, even received first team reps at left guard. Now, it means nothing, right? It means nothing. So that versatility, I think it really changes or has increased his value heading into camp. And so if he has a really good camp, and if someone develops around him, the question becomes, will the Lions be comfortable enough to keep him? Yes, for sure. But what about trade him? And why would they want to trade him? A former second-round pick, I think, was he? Former second-round pick or first-round pick? I think it was second-round pick. Might hold a little bit of value for the Lions when it comes time to the trade deadline. If everything is functioning as it should, Lions are staying healthy, and maybe they need to add another piece going into the push, then you might see a guy like Juice Scruggs, who's just on this one-year deal for the Lions, may be traded. Now, this is something that Brad hasn't done a whole lot of, and it's not to his fault. You have to have two to tango in this league. And if you don't have a partner that is willing or needing a guard, then those kind of deals really won't happen. But we'll see where it goes. So Detroit enters July, obviously, heading into camp here in 4 weeks, searching for the answers along the offensive line following the offseason changes and what a change it was. Now, the Lions currently have one holdover on the offensive line from this, starting group of 2020, and that is Penei Sewell. So in 2021, the Lions started with Ragnow, Decker, Sewell, Jackson, and those were the guys that kind of led this offense for a season or two, and then it continued to change. And we've lost players consistently, over the last couple of seasons, and now it's Penei Sewell's room. So when you look at the significant changes, this year is going to look a lot different. The numbers are going to look different on the offensive line. The names are going to look different on the offensive line. The question is, can they be the offensive line of 23 and 24? And that's where they need to be. But Scruggs does appear now involved in that competition at left guard, firmly involved, I should say, rather than just insurance or as a depth piece. So the Lions value offensive linemen. I think we understand that. We know that. And especially the ones that are versatile that can play multiple positions. So he's had right guard, center, and left guard opportunities into minicamp. He's created, I guess, more of a fierce battle than expected. He did show enough during, the installation work and spring practices to enter training camp with a legit shot at earning a larger role. The next step, obviously, is when the pads come on. And this is something that I've mentioned, I talk about often. You really can't, evaluate these guys until the pads come on. The bigs can't do anything unless they're able to hit each other and get their hands on each other. So if he handles the power and the physicality the same way as he did in minicamp, and the mental side that he's been, working on, obviously through OTAs and minicamp, his path to meaningful snaps and potentially being a starter and unseating Christian Mahogany, it could be real. It could happen. So that's one of the bigger camp battles to follow heading into July. So I guess I would like to know from you guys in the comments below and in the chat right now, how would you feel about Juice Scruggs versus Mahogany in at left guard? And I haven't looked at PFF in a long time. I wonder. And we're going away from PFF as soon as I get rolling here on some other things, but and by the way, I'm still waiting on Draft Sharks to to get me some updated information. They built my website, so we'll have a full website that you guys will be able to go to. But I did something really cool yesterday that I'm going to end up doing a video on this week. It's going to be more of an advertisement video. I love Draft Sharks, and I love what they're doing. It is so fun. We've got I have two fantasy football leagues going right now, and I'm going to make more. There's one for everybody, and then there's one for the members of the channel, and it's on Sleeper. I will put them back into the posts again today. So if you're not signed up, get signed up, because we're going to do a draft this Sunday night at 7:30 for the members. If we don't get enough people in right away, I'll push the draft date. That's fine. But I'm trying to get things done early, and we're going to do a dynasty draft and I think a keeper draft, but the dynasty draft, because we plan on doing it every year. And so keeping your roster from year to year, and I think it's fun. I've never really done a dynasty draft, so it's new to me. But we'll do PPR leagues and we'll do a keeper league and all that stuff. So if you want to get in on the leagues, you got to visit the posts for the members and for everybody else. All the audience members, there'll be separate leagues. It's free to join. There are no strings. It's just have fun. We're going to do 12-person leagues. I got to sign in here. I'm just curious at where Mahogany finished last year. Grade-wise. Blocking. Let's take a look at that. So here's Christian Mahogany last year. Overall grade 59.1 on the offense. Run block 67.2, but his pass block was atrocious, a 40.7. Now, I get it. I say it all the time. PFF is for observation purposes only. It doesn't mean anything to me. You have to watch the film, but I can tell you it was not good last year. Mahogany struggled quite a bit. He also missed quite a bit of time between week 9 and 16 with an injury. So he was not looking good in week 9. That was the last game that he played before his injury. And then when he came back, he really just wasn't the same. The Minnesota game in week 17 was his best game after the injury, but his two best games came against Cincinnati and Kansas City, even though we lost to Kansas City. But those were his two best games. But his pass blocking, it has issues. But running behind Mahogany is never seemed to be a problem. It's just he needs better protection. And now that he's next to Sewell, maybe a lot of that will figure itself out. I think that Mahogany is going to have a major jump in how he performs this year. If you go back to 2024, now it was only 144 snaps. Why is it not going all the way down? It was only 144 snaps. But that was the player that we were hoping was going to come back in 2025. And it just didn't fully seed itself. He didn't. So he had a 91.5 overall offensive grade, 91.1 in run block, 78.7 in pass block. 144 snaps, not enough to evaluate someone. Need a minimum of 250, but even then, I want to see a minimum of probably 400 snaps and a couple of years worth of work. Last year, maybe it was an anomaly because the whole offensive line was terrible. The offensive scheme had a lot of problems. The offensive coordinator was terrible. So maybe it was an anomaly and, more of the exception, not the rule, heading into 2025. So if Mahogany can get back to where he was playing his best football in 2024, this offensive line is going to be extremely good. The question becomes, does he, right? Can he do it? Let's take a look at where he really, I don't really need to take a look at where he finished, I guess. We know where he finished. It wasn't good. All right, let's get back to the article here. Scruggs, Mahogany, we'd love to know what you guys think. Safety and nickel battles. This camp is wide open this year. I think a lot of us, like I said the other day, we're expecting the Lions to do something in free agency and as well as in the draft when it came to the safety position, because without Branch, without Kirby, this defense is different, and it's different in a bad way. Right now, it's expected that Brian Branch will not be back until at least week 8. And as far as Kirby Joseph, nobody knows. And nobody knows because, as Dan Campbell said, they weren't willing to test him just yet. They're going to wait until the pads come on, and that's when it's all going to matter. Can he do it? Can he hold up? And I will say this, I'm not a doctor, so you've got to go do your own research, and you need to ask your doctor before you do anything. But there is a peptide right now that I have researched that I'm going to try because I have a lot of osteoarthritis that is apparently regrowing cartilage. And it's been done in mice, right? There's no human trials yet of note, but that is exceptional. Like, that is crazy that if this works and it works in humans, that could fix a lot of the injuries just with a simple peptide and not having to go through all the steroids and everything that really break you down. So be interesting to see if NFL will allow players to take those kinds of things. And if they are, illegal, I don't know. I have no idea. But if it's not FDA approved, I assume it's not welcome anyway. But anyway, we'll see where that ends. But the Lions secondary remains one of the most fascinating storylines simply because of Chuck Clark. Like, I thought Chuck Clark was going to be a good player, but I didn't know how good. And again, I can't over-evaluate his camp or his mini camp or his OTAs where they had a significant day on day one. The offense was able to get back at them, obviously throughout minicamp, but Chuck Clark really popped and made a lot of big plays, and he's an exceptional communicator. Communication is the most important thing in the back end of your defense. So Chuck Clark, Christian Izien, they received a significant amount of time of first-team reps during minicamp. Now, Christian Izien is a player that I said should slide right back into that, right back into that safety position, strong safety position, and kind of take that Brian Branch role. I know a lot of you disagreed, but that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing right. He has work at that. When he was at Tampa, Tampa moved on because they brought in a couple of other players through the draft, and he was kind of relegated to special teams. But Christian Izien is a much better player than I think what meets the eye. You can't go based on his stats. You have to go based on the film, and you have to really look back at what he was doing in 2023. So both of those players getting a lot of first-team work. It created a much different picture than many projected earlier in the spring. I figured this would be exactly the way that it would go. The question is, where does it end up? And that's where Roger McCreary continues to really appear positioned for substantial work in that slot nickel role. He also received a lot of extensive work inside during the offseason session. So the coaching staff has repeatedly been steadfast in emphasizing communication and versatility throughout the secondary, having players available that can play multiple positions, especially with the two injuries in that to Kirby and Branch right now, and their status is kind of up in the air. So the emphasis of having these players playing as well as they are right now, understanding the defense, making the change to a little bit more of a nickel style of a defense, I think that it's lending to a better competition, but two, I think it's really opening the door for the Lions to be a much better defense this year. Training camp is obviously going to be the ultimate decider for where this defense ends up, and whether the spring alignments translate into permanent roles. And right now, I'd say that they will. I don't think that there's another option for the Lions. The question for me is what happens to Avonte Maddox? Where does Rock Ya-Sin slot in? And with Abney, making some headway too early in camp, there's a major battle here, and this is going to be a fun battle to watch. So competition nowhere near settled. The defensive backfield may ultimately produce some of the toughest roster decisions, I think, out of all of the roster positions. Maybe the defensive line is the second best going into late July. But the depth in the camp battles they're just the beginning. The biggest takeaways from the offseason program is how many roster spots remain decided. I think it's pretty imperative to note that Brad Holmes has done an excellent job once again. Dan Campbell did continue to caution everybody that OTAs, you don't want to overreact. You don't want to overevaluate here. It's just putting guys on the field to see what they can do. You're really kind of putting butts in seats, right? You need guys out on the field. However, how that player takes that opportunity and what they do with that opportunity ultimately decides how good this defense will be come September. several players clearly improved their standing, early in camp. Offensive line, safety room, nickel corner position, rotational defensive line spots, and portions of the tight end depth chart all appear headed for legitimate competition here in July. It's exactly what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell wanted when entering the July phase of training camp. Championship caliber rosters are rarely built on obvious starters, and we have obvious starters. They are built on difficult decisions, right? At the bottom half of the roster, and the quality of the depth throughout the roster and throughout the lineup. That is where the roster will make that jump to the Super Bowl. The Lions appear positioned to have several of those difficult decisions this summer, and that's a good place to be. Let's talk about Sam Laporta and the major news that maybe you caught, maybe you didn't yesterday. Oh, hold on. Need to get in the right screen first. So I don't know how many of you guys heard this yesterday, but Sam Laporta wasn't a major injury update, if you will, but then again, it kind of was. How many of you heard what Sam Laporta is going to be doing this year? Something that he didn't do last year, and something that he has done in previous seasons. Matter of fact, he did it his rookie year, and I don't think he did it the year after that. And what am I talking about? Talking about Tight End University. Sam Laporta is going to be attending Tight End University again after being limited through walkthroughs, and walkthrough work really during OTAs and minicamp. He didn't really have much to do with the offense at all. So it's an encouraging sign, but it does not answer the biggest question, which is how close is he at handling a full training camp workload? If he's able to go to tight end U, I'm conflicted on what that means. But to me, that feels like a big health update, that he's healthy enough to go compete against and with the other tight ends. Now, tight end U is all about getting better, right? It's camaraderie. There's other things that these guys do. It's about building fellowship and friendship and all that stuff. But they're also there to get better, right? They're there to train. And I think a healthy Laporta really changes the structure of the Lions offense, just like we saw when Sam Laporta was out last year, how it changed the structure of the offense for the worse. And he gives Jared Goff that dependable middle of the field target to move the chains. It creates red zone mismatches when he's in the game, especially with, the way that Jahmyr Gibbs is starting to, really develop into a threat everywhere on the field. That will further accentuate what Sam Laporta is also able to do on the field. Him being able to attend tight end U tells me that he, or at least encourages me, that he's getting healthier faster and that he should be a full go for training camp. I can't imagine the Lions would want him going to tight end U if he wasn't healthy. So that to me is the big tight end or the big Sam Laporta update, that his health has now, transcended into a much better position than it was just a week ago. The Lions, they don't need him to prove anything right now. So I understand the holding him back. The same thing with Kirby. Do you really need him to prove something? Yeah. You need him to prove the knee. But do you need him to prove his work on the field? Maybe to a lesser extent, but I still feel it would have been encouraging to see him out there. For Sam, anytime he's on the field, he's produced. And he's battled plenty of injuries already throughout his career. I mean, he's had a plethora of injuries throughout his career. The back, the knee. I think he had a hip injury at one point, or a lower leg, injury at one point outside of the knee. So he's battled it. And I think that him getting into tight end U tells me that he's much closer than he's not to being a significant, part of this offense once again here in 2026. Again, it creates those red zone mismatches. It prevents defenses from leaning too heavily on Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson Williams or Jahmyr Gibbs. And it really gives the Lions and Jared Goff, like I said, just plenty of opportunity to do whatever they want and to disguise and confuse defenses by having all these players on the field at once. So again, he didn't really need to prove anything in June, but now if he gets to tight end U and makes it to camp fully healthy, this is where things really start to open up. And I think that this is one of the first things to watch as to whether he's going to be a full participant at training camp after attending Tight End University. So my eyes are going to be glued to Tight End U. I can't remember if they put everything online through YouTube or how they're going to track it this year. But I'm definitely going to track it and watch whatever I can watch. His availability may not receive the same attention, I guess, as the offensive line. It seems like the offensive line is and the defensive line is really kind of running away with it this year as far as the attention. But I think Sam Laporta is just as important as any other player on this roster. And then you also have to look at, the contract situation. His health, I believe, hinges on his contract. And if he's not able to play, to the extent that he was able to play before, does the deal get done? It's been rumored already that Sam Laporta could have a deal done before Jahmyr Gibbs, and maybe that's because it's a lesser of a deal. Maybe the Lions are trying to take advantage, of a situation. But those are a couple of situations that we should be paying attention to. Is if he gets a deal done, how much is it going to be? How much guarantee is in it? And what does that say about his health? I think it would say that the Lions are pretty confident in where he's going. We'll take a quick break, and we're going to listen to DJ Moore this morning. But before we do that, let's see who's all in here this morning. All right, big shout out here to Sunburst. Grandma Trace, of course, always in the house. K-Biz, good morning. J-Mommy, good morning. Rather Be Fishing Fred, good morning. Looks like Mitch had to take out early. Who else is in here today? Arch Nemesis, Milltown Mitch. Attila, good morning. Hassanin Mahdi. Oh, Rather Be Fishing Fred, $5 in the bucket says, that's awesome, but hope it all works out. I'm not far from you currently. Housing market around us is still a bit crazy. I'm always watching it. Yeah, it is crazy. And a matter of fact, I am going to go back into real estate. Like I'm going to make the full go, and I'm going to do real estate again just because why not? Like, I'm not impressed with some of the real estate agents that I've worked with, and like I pretty much sold myself this house, did all the work, and so it's, why am I even using a real estate agent? Like I could have just made 18 grand in commission, doing this stuff myself. So I feel like it's probably warranted for me just to go, get my license and do it. I've done real estate on and off throughout my whole life. From other perspectives, buying, building, fixing, flipping, all that kind of stuff. So I'm really familiar with it all. And sales is nothing, right? Sales is just talking to people. And so I think I might just do it and jump into it and do it part-time. You don't have to do it really full-time, but just do it part-time and just kind of take advantage of the relationships that are made. And I think it'll provide another way to really help the foundation grow too. Because I am going to put, a portion of proceeds, portion of commission towards that. Like that's the goal. It's like, I'm not going to work. I'm going to work to help build the foundation even further. That's just how important it is to me, that I get it to the stages that I want to get it to. So anyway, eventually at some point, I might be able to help one of y'all out and, put things to good use. All right. But the market is nuts, especially at the top of the market right now. Anything $1 million and up is starting to fall. In the range that we're looking, it's scary, but it's also fairly stable. And then, anything between that 200 and 450, 500 range is volatile as shit right now. Like there's so many houses that are losing their ass. Anyone that bought at the height of 2022, they're in trouble. Like they're in real trouble. And that's what I'm watching the most is how is that going to work out? For instance, this house, like unless these people paid cash, they're going to be upside down. And that's scary, right? That they're going to be upside down. And it's not a lot. It's not a little of money, not a little amount of money either. So it's fun, man. I watch his stuff every day. Between that and stocks and everything else, it's just fun to me. All right, let's get into Derek Moore. Derek Moore. Let me get that unmuted.
Continue to be a sponge and just as time goes on, just grow as a player.
What have you learned early on from some of the vets there?
A lot of things. I don't want to really get too much into it, but a lot of things, but like they pretty much just been like, a big brother to me. See all them guys, and like I said, I'm just trying to continue to be humble, keep my head down, to be a sponge.
How do you think Michigan, I guess, kind of prepared you for this? I mean, just having that experience in an NFL defense, and how do you think it's eased your transition here?
I feel like being at Michigan, they come into the NFL. I feel like it's really. I really want to say easy, but I was really prepared for it. I feel like if Coach Harbaugh and Coach Moore, they all treated everything just like an NFL. They treated the whole type program like an NFL program, and like we were just mentally prepared for everything. And pretty much every Michigan guy that that's in the league now was always ready for the league. So I feel like they did a good job training us to be ready for the next level.
But even schematically, I mean, just obviously you had that experience in the kind of style defense.
Yeah, I feel like I would say everything literally same knowledge, same everything, same almost like the same system. You just gotta come on and just be a ball player at that point. So, I feel really well in the system. Know the system really well. I just gotta come out here and be a ball player.
Envisioning you playing with Aiden Hutchinson, what can this defensive line be about when you guys bring pressure and are out there together?
I'm not really trying to, think too much about it. I feel like a lot of people always, talk about how I feel to be with Hutch, it'd be an honor, playing with Hutch. But at the end of the day, as a unit, we just trying to be the best unit, in the country and the league, really. And, just go out and just dominate together as a unit.
What are your plans the next couple of weeks? Obviously, you guys get a little bit of break before training camp here.
My plan is probably just, get off my feet just a little bit, but also got to remember, I'm still on the grind, so make sure I'm well in shape for camp and just stay in the playbook best as I can.
It must make it a little bit easier transition as the others, or what?
Just having Jimmy and also having guys like Hutch in the room, it's just. It kind of do make it easier because you got some type of familiar faces in the building. But, like for me, like my personality and type person I'm in, I'll always connect with anybody, no matter what locker room I am. But, like, having guys like Jimmy, I can have somebody to joke around with and always thinking about, the times we had at Michigan. So it definitely is fun, though.
What would you say is the trademark of the Michigan defensive football player that you guys represent?
I say physicality. For one, I feel like that's us. Like, no matter who was the defensive coordinator there, that's one thing we always was taught. Being physical, defeating blocks, getting off the blocks, and getting to the quarterback.
How many times have you been back to Ann Arbor?
I actually still live in Ann Arbor, so like I stay in the team hotel during the week, and then during the weekends I go back home. So until I move, I'll still be in Ann Arbor.
Have you met Whittingham?
Whittingham? Oh, yeah. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like everything about Coach Whittingham, he a great guy. When he first came in, I believe like the first week or two, I went up to the office, just to go talk to him. We talked a little bit, he sat me down, just got to know me. Actually, a great guy. We got to know each other, chopped it up for a little bit, and we just talked about the crazy season we had last year, and then he just pretty much talked about the goals that he had for the season coming up, and, it was just a great conversation, great guy, and everything I'm hearing back from, all of the guys back at the facility, everything just sounds good. So I'm definitely looking forward to them guys. I'm gonna be at a couple games for sure, and I just hope for them guys to turn everything back around.
He seems like he's fitting in.
Yeah, he definitely is. I can see like any other time he just around Ann Arbor enjoying himself. So that's what I like.
Able to trust each other, like that's the next step for me. The next step for everybody, to be honest.
All right, quick breakdown here. There's been concern about Derek Moore throughout minicamp and OTAs. Now, I'll be very candid here for all the Michigan fans. I know it's hard. I've watched it happen with Aiden Hutchinson. I know it's hard to hear criticism, right? Constructive criticism. we got to separate Saturdays from Sundays because it's meaningful conversation when we're able to do that. But there has been some concern about Derek Moore picking up the defense. And I understand the conversation they're having. Like, you're in a professional, you're in an NFL caliber or style of a room, right? You're being led by Harbaugh, who's, former NFL player, former NFL coach, goes back to college, now back in the NFL. What's his name? Oh my God, what's his name? Who was their coach last year? Moore? I forget his name. But anyway, he's now in the NFL. But they structured this thing. They structured the defense and the offense to be a pro system. And so that's great, right? Anytime you're in a pro system, I think it helps the offense more than it does the defense. An offense in a pro system will hit the ground running a lot faster than the defense does. Defense is still defense. You're not really doing a whole lot of things differently on the defensive side of the football from college to pros. They're almost two of the same thing. I mean, there's some unique differences. I mean, Saban did a lot of different stuff with his defense, especially with his DBs. And I think that it doesn't really lend to an immediate jump into the NFL. Now, Derek Moore might feel a little bit more prepared, but it's still the defense, man. You still have to understand your keys. You still have to understand the defense, the communication, and the scheme is the most important thing. And learning that playbook and figuring out, your cues and how these guys are supposed to trade off and, pick up guys. He's going to be in the trash heap, man. He's going to be in the trash heap at times, having to possibly trail a tight end. And that's where the concern happens for a guy like Derek Moore. Is he going to be able to cover at times? I think it's to a lesser degree if we're in more of a nickel that he'll have to cover as much. But that is one of the concerns, I think, going into this training camp. Is he going to be able to do any coverage at all? He's more of more of a pure pass rusher, and his run game can be pretty good at times too, his run defense. So I think the pressure on him is great because the defensive line room is stacked right now. So the one thing that I'm going to point out is don't be like, I guess I'm not going to be overly negative on the guy, because if he doesn't earn a starting spot, which I'm not expecting him to, that doesn't mean the Lions made a bad pick. They got a really good guy. Is going to take some time. Give him 2 to 3 seasons, to season, right, to learn things, and he'll be just fine. He's not going to come in and wreck the game and have 10-plus sacks this year. I don't know why everyone thinks that a defensive end needs 10-plus sacks to be successful. When you look around the league, there's 90% of the league that doesn't have 10-plus sacks, right? And a lot of the guys are really successful. I would say that if he can manage the run defense and lock that in, run a stiff edge, and play sound technical defense, that is a win in his rookie year. So he's had some difficulty early. We'll see what happens when the pads come on, because he may not be in an environment right now that is conducive to learning because he can't play fast. He can't run and hit. He has to observe and react. That's what minicamp is all about. You're observing, you're listening, you're reacting. He has to trigger right. He has to understand what to do, but at the same time, he doesn't have the damn pads on. So the criticism about Moore right now and having kind of a rough OTAs and minicamp, that's all going to go out the window, right? It's all going to go out the window when summer training camp hits. So I still think that there's a lot of room to grow. I mean, come on, of course there's a lot of room to grow for the guy. He's still young. He's a young pup. But don't read too much in to these idiots saying he's going to be an all-pro or that he's going to win a starting job or he's going to have 10-plus sacks or yada, yada, yada. That is just overhyping fan, garble, I guess. It's not rooted in reality. You're setting the expectations way too high, and it just turns into, toxic energy later because, people are going to get all over his ass if he doesn't produce. The guy's going to be fine. He needs to fit a role. He needs to find a method and a way to work himself into the defense that is commensurate and conducive to, playing football at a high level. And that's all he has to do. He just has to come in and fit a role, whether it's 35% of the snaps or 65% of the snaps. I don't care. He just needs to be a good football player when he's out there and not make the same mistake twice. That's all I'm expecting from the Rook. I don't care if you drafted in the first round or the 10th round. He just has to come in and be, what the Lions expect him to be, not what we should expect him to be. And I think that Calvin Shepard has a really great plan and idea based on what we've heard and seen already on how all of these guys are going to be utilized. But I've heard, and seen the All Pro said this about Derek Moore and come on, people. Like, let's be real for a moment, okay? Let's be real. The dude's a Rook. He's been in the NFL for 2 seconds. He hasn't played it down in the NFL. It's going to take some time. Now, would I love to see him pop out and be an All-Pro his rookie year and have, 10-plus sacks and affect the game? Yes, but it's affecting the game is more important to me as a fan than his sack numbers. And honestly, if he can just come in and do what he's supposed to do, even at the most basic level, run, hit, tackle, key, diagnose, and be responsible and set a stiff edge, I'm happy. Like that's it. That's all I expect. I'm expecting DJ Wanham to really pop out and have a great year this year. And there's no reason why he can't. But more importantly, he has to be able to stand on his 10 toes when his number is called and be, an answer to this defense when needed. And so those are the things that I'm looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to putting him into a box right now and putting all the pressure on him. He's got enough pressure. But let's just see where he goes, man. Let's just see where his game develops, this season, because it's going to be a lot longer than it is shorter of a time before he's learned everything and flying and playing fast. So, damn, K-Biz, you already think he's a bad pick? Yeah, look, I don't think it was a bad pick. I'm conflicted, but at the same time, I don't want to contradict myself on how I think he can develop. I think that there was better answers and better opportunities in the second round. But if you were looking for maybe the best overall edge in the second round, he might have been the best overall available. But then again, I don't know. I scouted some players that I felt were a lot better than Derek Moore. And the same thing with Jimmy Rolder. But, Jimmy Rolder he's popping out a little bit now. Again, pads aren't on. All that could change. All that could change in July. Let's take a look at something real quick. Let's take a look at the draft, round by round. Man, I can't wait to share Draft Sharks with y'all. I can't wait. It just popped up on my screen again. And you're going to love it. You're going to love it. I just got to tell you this one thing about it real quick. Big shout out to Joe Mo. Just sent out 5 gift memberships, man. Appreciate you, buddy. Look at that. Attila got one. Mr. Thomas, Knockin' Andrew, Bubs TV 19. Good morning. Christopher Spicer. Good morning. All good morning. Looks like we got a Raiders fan up in the house. Knockin' Andrew 1408. Good morning. Hold on here. Switch screens. Anyway, Draft Sharks. Absolutely love it. Super excited that they're going to be a sponsor this year and do some great things together. But man, when I was going through and just kind of learning the system a little bit, why does that look so funny? Why does it look so whited out? I have all the drafts, or all the fantasy teams in leagues on Sleeper. And then you can go into Draft Sharks and pull all of your information in to Draft Sharks. And then you have all this access to all of these different things that can make you extremely smart and help you pick the best players possible. It's loaded with fantasy draft information. And it doesn't cost a whole lot of money, but don't buy it yet. Just wait until I get things up there and promoted and done the right way, because I'm going to get you guys a really good discount. And I've already got mine for the full year. I bought Eric one for the full year. So we have access to the upper level of things. And man, it's intense. There is so much stuff in there. It's so fun. But all you have to do is add an extension, the Draft Sharks extension to your browser, and then you can pull all of your fantasy teams in. Doesn't matter what league. It's awesome. It's fantastic. And I'll show you guys later. All right, let's take a look at the draft real quick, because where the Lions took Derek Moore. Let me find it here. We're getting there. Where is he? Where is he? There we go. All right, so we took Derek Moore ahead of Zion Young. Now, if you remember my conversation about Zion Young, earlier in the offseason, March, I said it wasn't going to work, right? Wasn't going to work because there was just too much negative stuff happening. And so the Lions, they move up to grab Derek Moore, and they pass by Zion Young. They pass by the linebacker Josiah Trotter. A lot of people wanted Trotter. A lot of fans thought he was going to be great. They pass by the defensive tackle Lee Hunter. They pass by the other linebacker Jake Golday. They pass by D'Angelo Pons, right? All players that I didn't expect to become a Detroit Lion anyway. And then C.J. Allen. A lot of fans really wanted C.J. Allen, and I thought, nah, he doesn't fit. And then there's Gabe Yakas. A lot of fans were super excited about Gabe Yakas. They passed by him too. I mean, they could have stuck and picked, what were we at, 50, I think? We could have stuck and picked at 50 and taken Gabe Yakas, no problem. But if you look at the players, Anthony Hill Jr., another linebacker that a lot of fans were excited about, they passed by him. They sunk their chips into Malcolm Rodriguez and then ended up adding Jimmy Rolder later. And then Max Clare, the one tight end that I felt if the Lions could have brought in a tight end to really help out the Sam Laporta situation and make this offense even more deadly, Max Clare would have been the option. I'm surprised that they did that. I'm surprised that they didn't take Emmanuel McNeil Warren as well. If there's one or two players, and I'm glad to see that Jake Slaughter went, in the second round. He obviously didn't reach the first round. I thought early in the season there was an opportunity for it, but I never thought he was going to be a third, fourth, fifth rounder. Second round at the very latest. Glad to see that he went there. And then Bud Clark. Passed on Bud Clark too. And I didn't think Bud Clark was a fit either. But Emmanuel McNeil Warren, if this dude pops out this year and we have any issues with Kirby Joseph, this is going to be the pick. Just like last year, Emma Awori was the pick that I felt like the Lions should have brought in. Somehow, some way. But the Lions had an opportunity to bring in all of these players that a lot of fans wanted. The only ones that I felt would have been, good players for the Lions at least, it would have been, depending on what they did in the first round, which I expected, the offensive tackle, was Emmanuel McNeil Warren. And that's really about it. And so when you look at the rest of the draft here in the second round, Christian Miller might have been an option for the Lions if he would have, still been available. He wasn't. Jacob Rodriguez, I think, was the linebacker that they might have been, more, I guess, likely to draft. And I think that when I watch how Brad Holmes does his thing, now I've never gotten this answered. I don't know this answer for sure. I have not asked my guy, and I don't even know if he's going to know. But if you look at when Brad moves, and then you look at the player that is directly in front of where the Lions pick, that is usually one of the players that they wanted. It is usually one of the players that they brought in on a top 30, or it's usually one of the players that they heavily invested time into. Jacob Rodriguez gets picked at 43. The Lions bounce up to 44. Why is that? Can anybody explain to me why that would make sense that Brad makes a knee-jerk reaction to move all of a sudden if a player that he wanted is gone? I'll explain it in just a second. Cassius Howell, obviously the Lions, maybe not. I don't think that they were ever going to be interested in him. He's too small. They went with length this year. They went with bigger bodies this year. Colton Hood, I think if Colton Hood was still available, could have been an opportunity for him. But now you're seeing a DB room that looks pretty good. No need to move all the way up. I felt if the Lions would have moved back and would have gained an early second-round pick, then there would have been an option for it. And the only way they would have been able to move up is if they would have given up a future draft pick, future second, future third to be able to do that. They weren't interested in doing that, obviously, at the time. A couple of players that I think that went ahead of the Lions pick at 44 that could come back to bite us. Caden McDonald being one, Colton Hood being another, Christian Miller, Jacob Rodriguez. Those are the four players I feel in the second round that could have been highly beneficial to the Lions. And then Max Clare and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. But if I were to rate them all on who I would have taken ahead, it would have been Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as my number one target. And if I were the Lions, I would have figured out a way to move back into the second round, maybe stay at 50, trade a bunch of other things to move up, but it also would have affected the back end of the roster. I just felt like we needed three really solid players at three positions, and it would have been edge, offensive tackle, and safety. And then anything after that is gravy on top, because a lot of those players are not going to get starting jobs, and they're going to play in more of a backup role anyway, limited snap role. And I think that the back end of the roster was already looking fairly well. So let's see here. Yaka's still unsigned due to his injury history. That's interesting. Silent service. I think we said that multiple times about not having pads on. Yeah, multiple times. I don't know who you're talking about or what player you're talking about. Matter of fact, I thought that I was pretty confident in Mr. Derek Moore, if that's the player you're talking about. Pretty confident. I said not to over-evaluate the guy. So anyway, the reason why I think that this whole situation for Brad Holmes happens just about every year, and maybe we'll go back and look at this another day, and I'll have to do some research and kind of go through every draft, but I'm pretty positive it's going to shape up this way. Jacob Rodriguez was probably the guy that they were looking at grabbing at 50. And Rodriguez, on every mock that I did, I had him between like 42, 43, 44, and 52, 53, 54, somewhere in that range. He went maybe a couple of spots early, but this is a player that could have played the will linebacker position for the Lions, maybe would have been an upgrade over the other Rodriguez. But I think that when you see Jacob Rodriguez fly off the board and then the Lions make a knee-jerk reaction, move up and select Derek Moore. And the reason why, based on what I've learned, how GMs react, is that was the next best player on their board in that round. And that was who they were going to go get. So they didn't care how they did it. They just needed to go get that player because they didn't see anyone else that they were interested in between the second and third round. They didn't even have a pick, and they didn't have anything apparently set up to move up into the third round. So they had to go get the one player that they felt they couldn't live without. And if you look at previous drafts, it always seems like the Lions make a rash move or a quick move to circumvent a player that they just lost by getting selected ahead of them. So let's go and look at what happened with Caden Proctor. Lions, they stuck and picked at 17. The rumor was that the Lions were trying to move up. Where was it? Trying to move up right here at number 10 with the New York Giants. And if they were able to move up, with the Giants and make that happen, or was that Miami that was sitting there? It might have been Miami that was sitting there. I think it was. If they were able to move up with Miami at number 10, they would have been able to take Caden Proctor. Well, once Maui Noah goes at 10 and the Dolphins select Caden Proctor at 12, well, now there's no real reason for the Lions to move up or do anything, but that's where they were trying to get up to. They were trying to get up into that 10, which I thought was going to be needed. I told y'all the Giants were going to screw everything up for the Lions with Caden Proctor and everybody else because of what they did a couple of days before the draft in that trade that they made. So it did come to fruition. The Giants screwed it up, and the Lions weren't able to get Caden Proctor. And it's been pretty well talked about that Caden Proctor was their number one guy. It's not to say that Blake Miller is a consolation prize by any means, Blake Miller was the next best tackle to take. Absolutely. If you can't get a left, Blake Miller was the best right tackle to take. It was never going to be anybody else. Not for me. Monroe Freely never made the board for me for the Lions. And you all know that. Max Ahanachor, I'm surprised he went at 21, and I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because I had him as one of those fringe players. If you go back to my top 36, I had him in the top 36. I had him in the first round. But then again, if he would have been there and the Lions didn't take an offensive lineman in the first round somehow, Max Ahanachor could have been in Detroit. But I think that they made the best move, and I think they brought in the best player in Blake Miller, and I think it's going to work out just fine. So little off topic, little off topic conversation on what happened with Derek Moore, and kind of back to the question of was he the right pick? Was it too early of a pick? We'll find out. He has a long way to go, just like everybody else does. He has a long way to go, and I think that over time we're going to see Derek Moore turn into a good football player. But is he going to be that generational starter? I don't think so. I don't see it. I think we don't need a generational starter. We still don't have a generational starter on the other side of Aiden, and honestly, it's never really going to be needed. What's needed is you have two lines that can come in and play at a high level, and you don't have a severe let off, between your first, second, and third downs. You don't have a severe let off when you have to rotate players in. That is where you want to get to, is good quality depth that you're not letting off big plays because you had to switch players in and out. Do you want to hear from Terry and Arnold? Let's switch over to TA real quick.
Able to trust each other, like that's the next step for me, the next step for everybody, to be honest.
TA, personally, what does the next step look like for you? Is it as simple as just staying on the field for 17 games? What does your progression look like ideally in year 3?
Year 3, I would feel like before I got hurt, I started playing my best ball. And just as far as getting comfortable, with me, I started to get comfortable last year, and then my injury, that's something that I was dealing with rookie year, last year. So just being able to go out there, stay healthy, then be the best teammate I could be. That's what I'm looking forward to. Going out there, being a leader, making sure I over-communicate, and then really just knowing my teammates, understanding my teammates. And then Coach Shev, he's preaching leverage football. So just going out there, and when it comes to playing corner, all our mistakes are visual. So the next thing for me is just you can't guard every route. So that's kind of something critical that even Coach Shea preaches us. When you go out there and you have trust, you have the ability to make plays in the scheme just by having that trust with your teammates. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Health-wise, what percent do you feel like you're at right now, and where do you want to be entering camp?
Entering camp, obviously I want to be 100. But right now I would say I'm at about 75, 80%. I think the main thing for me is just knowing that I am healthy now. It's one of those things when you have to go through and you have to go out there and play and knowing that you're not at 100%, which nobody is at 100%, but just being able to go out there, enter camp, knowing that I done had the surgeries, got worked on, feeling better, I'm ready for that.
Campbell has said all positions are up for grabs. Mm-hmm. Everybody's pushing everybody, and nobody is getting handed anything. Do you feel that type of pressure, especially in your guys' position?
I wouldn't say it's pressure. I feel like when you go out here, the NFL, competition breeds excellence. That's what I was just preaching to the guys. Their job is to go out there and find guys to come into the room to push the guys. And when you go out there and you have environments like that, that's environments that I thrive in, the environments that they brought the guys in, they thrive in. Going to Alabama, guys where they came from, that's what the NFL is all about. So, if you don't have that, or you don't have coaches who are going out there trying to find guys to replace you, to push you, then it's not going to get the best out of you.
With all the offseason noise, how do you feel like you've grown as a person?
I feel like I've grown as a person just because when you have to sit back and you just look at everything, you just be quiet. Sometimes silence is the best answer to everything. And it's a growth as far as being a man and a growth as far as being a player.
But you're not big on silence, are you? You do like to talk.
Nah, I feel like with me, it's a time and a place. But I'm confident. I ain't never gonna hold my tongue for nobody. It's a time and a place. And even as far as us athletes starting to speak up, it's always a time and a place and a situation for everything. Some things are better left to address, some things are better left unsaid.
Can you say anything about the off the field stuff that you've gone through?
No, I just want to focus on football.
Is there with Brian and Kirby both facing uncertain starts to this season? How much of an emphasis is there on you and DJ providing that stability in the secondary as two of the better cornerbacks in the NFL?
I would say that's just for the whole group. Like the whole group, when you come in here, everybody who has came in our position group has had to step up and make plays. So, I mean, even guys like Rock Ya-Sin, guys like Avonte Maddox, like guys like Thomas Harper, or even just seeing like the growth that Ennis has took. Like we have guys in the secondary that honestly are like, can go out there and perform. So like when I wouldn't say we have to step up, I would say we just have to step up as a group. And like I'm looking forward to that because I feel like when they come back and us taking that leap forward as a group, it'll make us that much better and that much closer.
Do you feel like in some ways a third year in the NFL is a make or break year for a player, especially a highly drafted player?
Nah. I would say that's kind of like the narrative that like the media puts on it. But like for me, I feel like every year is a make or break year. And then just like when you go out there and you have to perform under pressure, have certain circumstances, players grow every year. So when I go out there and play, like I don't treat it almost as far as it's a make or break year. Like every game is a win or lose game. Every play, every down, like it means something. So like when I go in there, I just treat it as far as every day will be like a make or break day. And like Chuck Clark, he actually said something that was very meaningful. Like the term is always you want to stack days, but you should like reframe that narrative as stack meaningful days. Like my uncle always told me, like when I lay down at night, do I want to save this day or delete this day? So like my goal is just go out there and save as many days as possible.
Because of what happened, have you made changes outside of this building here? Have you made changes like tightened it up a little bit with who's in your circle and who you're hanging out with?
Nah, like I mean, I'm a home guy, hang around my family and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as things like that, like I just feel like kind of
God, I can't stand that
when
dude.
certain things happen in life, it's best to like remain silent. And I mean, you speak on stuff if you want to speak on it, but I mean, at the end of the day, like silence sometimes is the best answer, like I said before.
100%.
So you're very comfortable with who's in your circle and everybody who's around you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I got my granddad, I got God, I got my family, like, yeah.
What advice does Campbell give you on issues like that?
What advice does he give me?
Yeah.
I mean, there really hasn't been advice on as far as issues like that, but I mean, just having everybody in the building, like, support, and obviously just knowing that you have a coach that will go to bat for you, like, it means everything. I mean, it was the same thing, like, when I came here and I got drafted, like Brad always said, when you come here, man, this is a family. And this is, like, the building, the type of place that you want to be in. And, like, a lot of guys preach that, but honestly, like, this place feels like home, so.
All right, some good stuff there. Some real good stuff. And I'm glad to see some of the comments in the chat. TA's growth and maturity. But I can't, I know that, true media personnel are people, they have a job to do. It's always about a story. It's always about clicks, right? And as opposed to what the real story should have been out of this. And I don't read other people's crap most of the time, but especially certain individuals, I won't even open it. But I mean, ask him if he's comfortable with who's in his circle. Like, how do you even know who was in his circle before? Right? It's still never been said that any of this stuff had anything to really do with TA. And yeah, he may have known individuals, but sounds like they're pretty much acting on their own. And if that's the case, it has nothing to do with TA. He's still not in trouble. So nothing has come down the pike, and you probably would have happened by now. I mean, it's been a long time. What is it, 6 months? If something would have happened by now. If there was going to be any sort of an indictment, it would have happened by now. So I'm pretty confident TA's in the clear. And there was some amazing things that came out of this. Most importantly, one of the things that he spoke about, leverage football, is something that I've been talking about for a long time. And it's not like they haven't been doing this. Of course, they're trying to play leverage football. I'll explain what it is in a minute. But to hear him say it, they have finally owned up to something, that they haven't been doing it at the best possible opportunity, or when they really need to play through leverage football. Now's the time. And what they can do with the players that they have. There's a couple of ways to really think about leverage football, what it means from a schematic standpoint, I guess a position standpoint, and what you force the ball to do, especially on defense. So there's 2, 3, 4 different ways you could probably look at leverage football. We'll go into it in just a minute. But right in the chat. Right in the chat. Who was it that just said that? Was it Thomas? Thomas said, damn, he sounds so mature. Excellent. Soundbite. All right, T.O. I like this a lot. I see you. 100. Yes. T.O. he's always been a good talker, right? And it's time to produce. And so I will disagree with him on the third year thing. We'll talk about that too. But Attila says, I hope he got scared straight to focus on football and his life choices, his friends and surroundings better, kind of like J-Mo seems to have done. No different, right? J-Mo went through some things, more in the spotlight, for a few seasons in a row, and he's on a different path too. He's also a little bit older, a little bit wiser, right? A little bit longer in the tooth. It happens with all of us. Every one of us has made mistakes at some point in our life. None of us are perfect. The thing that I didn't like is he talks about injury. That is one thing that burns Shep up the most. And you have heard Shep talk about it. We ain't talking about injuries. If you're injured, get the hell out the game. I don't want to hear excuses. That is what Kelvin Shepard has said time and time again. We ain't talking about it. If you're injured, you're out. We put someone in that can play. But we're not going to blame our play on injury, right? Hurt, injury, kind of different. The fact that he said that it was following him since his rookie year, I don't remember any major injury that happened in his rookie year, but the injury that he had last year was because he laid the boomstick after he was challenged in the run game, right? In the run defense. So he went and laid the boot. I forget which game it was. It might have been week 5. I think it was week 5. Week 4, week 5. Might have been the Kansas City game. I think it was. So anyway, that's when he hurt his shoulder. And then at that point, he couldn't play. But I saw the same growth in TA that TA just said. He did look like he was understanding things a little bit better. He was playing his best football to date before he ultimately had the shoulder injury. It still wasn't his best football. Like, TA could be one of the best corners in the league. He knows that. But he has to be able to channel that energy. He has to be able to channel the idea of being great. And you have to turn it into action, right? So let's not talk about injury. Let's not blame anything on injury. I wasn't prepared physically last year. That's a better way to say it. I wasn't prepared physically. I let my body get banged up. I wasn't prepared. I didn't take care of my body the way I should have. I learned these lessons along the way. But he saved himself, right? That was a great interview. He saved himself because he mentions team, man. It's not about me getting better. It's about us getting better, right? It's not about me going out there and performing a certain way. It's all of us have to perform a certain way. It's not just me that needs to go in there and be the best corner opposite of DJ Reed. Ennis Rakestraw, Roger McCreary, Chuck Clark, everybody does. Everybody has a part to play. I can't just get better. Everyone has to get better. But yes, he still has a job to do in year 3. He has to go win a starting job. And I believe the pressure is on him. There's some players in this building that can play his position. I don't think Ennis Rakestraw is as near as good of a cornerback as TA is. I think they do different things better than each other. But if you could combine both of those players into one player, I'd be a crazy good player. But we don't have that opportunity, right? We can't meld these guys together. But separately and together, they can get better together. They can sharpen each other's skills. And that's exactly what DJ Reed is trying to do right now. He has firmly put his foot down as a leader of that room, along with Chuck Clark, to develop these guys, to be that overwatch, to be that guy in the room that has the experience that can speak to it. Leadership, I get it. Like, TA wants to be a leader. And it's important to be a leader to a degree. I don't think TA is at the point right now where he can be a leader. I don't think he can be really looked at as a leader. Your time in the league does not define leadership. And what I mean by that is, for instance, for myself, like if I were to walk into a real estate room, right? Let's say I join a real estate company and I'm the new guy on the block. I may have 25 years of sales experience, own multiple companies and done all sorts of things, but I don't know the way that they do things there, right? I don't know their policies. I don't know how they fill out paperwork. I don't know their protocols. I can't be a leader on day one. Can I be a leader in a sales negotiation? Absolutely. I can close those down, no problem. But can I be a leader as the guy in the room that knows everything? No. I have to prove it. I have to prove my weight is worth something in that room. And that's what TA has to do this year. He has to prove that his play can catch up to his brain, right? That his play can catch up to his mouth, because he is a player that likes to talk. And I think that he is growing. He's maturing like every young adult does, at that stage in their life. And he's in a different space in life. He's making millions of dollars, and he has, everybody breathing on his neck for a story. So he needs to grow from maturity. That's how he can lead this year. He needs to stay mature, and he needs to go out there and play like his job is on the line. From the third year perspective and the pressure, the question was asked, do you feel like it's a make or break year? What an excellent answer. Like, every day is a make or break kind of a day. When I lay down at night, do I want to stack this day and save it, or do I want to delete it? Like that's powerful stuff. I'm going to write that on my board. I'm going to have a little delete button and a save button. Are we saving the day or are we deleting the day? I think that's great. I'm stealing that, TA. Sorry. But I think he's wrong. And Brad Holmes has mentioned this many times too. You can't evaluate the players that you draft until year 3. You can't have a full evaluation until they've grown through their rookie stages. They've come in and they've had a full off season in their second year and grown through their second year, which his was shortened due to injury. And now you're in your third season, your third or second full off season. And I say second in your third year because your first year is it's tough because you've done all the training for the combine and to get through the draft, and you're really thrown through it all. Like, you haven't had any time, to take a break, right? Any time to really settle down. So I think that third year is really your second full off season, and you should know, if you're running the same D, you should know the D, right? If you're running the same type of schemes, you should know the schemes. You should know the playbook inside and out. That is where, if you've had enough time on the field, you really should develop into a leader of men and of the group. In his case, he has some vets in the room that are the leaders of that room. He just needs to lead himself to staying mature, to staying hungry, and making sure that he's not making mistakes. And most importantly, stop blaming injury, because everyone's injured. Everyone's banged up. Everyone has bumps and bruises, and they still go out there and play. Do you think that Aiden Hutchinson isn't banged up and injured? Come week 1, he is. But he's going to go out there and play. And if he has a bad game, he's not going to come to the mic and say, I broke my fingernail in, the first play, and it really caused me a lot of pain, and I couldn't wrap up. That's why I missed the tackle. He's not going to say that, Jonah Jackson. What he's going to say is, I wasn't prepared. I need to play better. I missed the play. It's on me. I'm going to go watch the film. I'm going to get better. That's where TA needs to change this year, is stop making excuses. Start producing. I'm not saying that TA is that kind of an individual that he will just be a talker and not a producer, but this is the year that he has to prove that. And I think that is the only thing that, is left for me to evaluate with TA is, can he put it all together and just work, right? That if I were evaluating as a GM or a coach, that's what I would ask. Can he just put it together, put his head down, and go to work and make the plays? And if he screws up, which is going to happen, how does he handle it, right? How does he handle it? Is he going to, go watch extra film? And is he going to ask questions? Or is he going to come to me and tell me he broke his fingernail? Those are the questions that I have. But I thought that was a great interview for TA. I'm glad that he handled the questions that he did. Just wants to play football, man. He doesn't care what happened in January or December or February or March. He just wants to play football, and he wants this team to win. And I think he's in a good position to do that. And he has a fierce camp battle on his hands. This is not TA's job right now to lose. It's his job to win. And I think that's a great place to be. And I'm glad that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have put him in that situation, because I think it's going to make everybody better. I really do. Let's see. Oh, Sunburst, come on, buddy. Yeah, Chuck Clark, man. Look, I love that. I love that statement. What else did I miss? Oh, the over communication and the 75-80%. So I don't know that TA needed to put a percentage on it. 75 to 80% is a long way away from being 100% come camp. And how are you going to gain 25 to 20% in a month? I know it seems like a long amount of time, but it's not. So we'll see. Because right now he needs to go into his own offseason program. Is he going to be out in Miami? Is he going to be out in LA? Is he going to be traveling? Or is he going to be working? What is he going to do between now and July? Because if I'm TA, I'm not on vacation. I might take a weekend or two, but outside of that, I'm working. If I was in his position, I would be busting my ass and working on getting better, staying healthy, going through treatments. Get some hyperbaric chambers in, man. Like, seriously, get some hype. Go do some MMA. Go join Jahmyr Gibbs. The whole freaking squad should be doing MMA. Isn't that funny? How I've been telling these guys, telling you all through the videos and the live streams, they all need to go do some hand fighting and some MMA to get their balance, their body, everything right. And the hand fighting, especially for receivers and corners and defensive ends and offensive tackles, is critical. Hand school is critical. And doing some form of MMA helps you with that. And I think it would behoove the Lions to bring in some MMA, maybe a bunch of UFC guys and put them through some practices. Put them through a week of training of just doing that stuff for an hour a day. And I think it would tremendously improve the body composition, balance, hand skills. It's not football, but it's needed, right? Same thing with, I don't care if it's Pilates or whatever else. You have to put your body in a different situation, to do different things, to use different muscles that you're not doing. And I think the greatest players do that. The greatest players will find the unique methods that make them different. And I'll point to one guy that did it different very early on, and his name was Rocky Balboa, right? When he trained, what did he do? Did he go into a gym and just box? No. That bro was holding a 20-inch diameter tree that was 12 feet long on his shoulders, jogging up a mountain, right? That's different. He was up in the Alps or whatever in the wintertime, jogging up mountains, pushing cars, pulling cars, beating tires. That's different. He wasn't in the gym just boxing. He wasn't on a treadmill. He was training the muscles that needed to be trained. That's how you gain an edge in the NFL. It's just like being in sales. If you put yourself in different sales classes and learn from the people that are better than you, be a sponge, man. You pick it up. You use the best part, the best 10% of everybody that you can listen to. Take that 10%, make yourself better. So good stuff from TA. Good stuff from Derek Moore. I think Derek Moore has, a little bit longer of a way to go than maybe we had hoped, but it is what it is. It's early. It's extremely early in these guys' career. Inside leverage. So I want to talk about leverage because TA mentioned leverage. When you leverage, I guess when I think of leverage, one, it's putting your body or using your position and body angle to control where the opponent can go, right? Offensive lineman. I've said this about Aiden Hutchinson many a times. When Aiden gets deep, too deep beyond the quarterback, right? He gets beyond their drop. If they take a 5-step drop and he's going 7, right? He's getting behind the quarterback. Well, why does that happen? Happens typically because the offensive tackle uses leverage. They use leverage. They widen the arc by padding, pushing, punching, whatever. Aiden, right? And they're pushing him out, using leverage to steer and control Aiden to get beyond the arc. And when that happens, now you've opened the D gap, and that's where we got gashed very early in his rookie season. Happened quite a bit, against players like, oh my God, what's his name? Why can't I think of the Bears quarterback name? Justin what? Whatever. The Bears quarterback. God, my brain's for shit today. So it happened against a lot of players. It happened against a lot of running backs. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks and a lot of running backs that when Aiden would get too wide, we would get gashed. There was over like 700 yards of rush yards on Aiden's end in his rookie year. And that's because he wasn't responsible of using leverage, understanding leverage, and helping, control the situation by taking an under route or, staying, creating a stiff edge and using his own leverage. So that is one way to look at it. A player, has good leverage when he places himself between the opponent and then the area that he must protect, or the opponent and the ball carrier, right? And making sure that if you go and set an edge, your leverage is controlling the edge. When you break leverage, you allow that running back to get beyond your edge. So using leverage this year for Derek Moore, for DJ Wanham, for Peyton, for Aiden Hutchinson, it's control your edge. Play with leverage. Keep it inside. What do I always say? Push the ball to the way that the offense doesn't want to go. If they're trying to run right, you want to push them left. Why? You may have more resources on the left. You may have a guy that is, pinned down on the running back or the ball carrier. And so you want to use that leverage to force that ball the other direction. Now, the player doesn't necessarily have to make the tackle, right? They don't have to win immediately at all to have good leverage. The first job is often to take away the path, and force that ball towards help and kind of take the path of least resistance and turn it into the path of most resistance, if that makes sense. So defensive leverage usually means keeping the ball carrier, receiver, quarterback on the correct side of your body. And that is extremely important, especially for a cornerback. Outside leverage with a defender, when they line up to play toward the outside shoulder of an offensive player, you want to prevent that player from getting to the outside, right? So if you're lined up on the outside, you're forcing that player this way, right? If you line up on the inside, you're forcing that player out. Does that make sense? Use your leverage. If you're lining up on the inside, the leverage point is the sideline, right? That's where you're trying to steer that player, trying to steer him towards the sideline. You line up on the outside, you're trying to push him towards the slot and trying to force him in towards, your help on the inside. So I guess the better example would be a cornerback or an edge. They may be responsible for setting the edge. They cannot allow the runner to turn that corner and get to the sideline. You want to force them upfield, into the middle where you have your linebackers or your strong safety is able to come up and make the tackle. So you keep the ball. He keeps his outside arm and shoulder free, whether it's a corner or an edge. Keep that outside arm free. Force that runner back inside where the linebackers, defensive linemen are waiting to make the tackle. If that player were to jump inside and try to make the tackle, the runner can do what? Just bounce outside, right? So if you don't use leverage and you quickly, key and diagnose like you're supposed to, if you're a linebacker, maybe it's a little bit different, right? You're supposed to key, diagnose, and go make that tackle. If you're, strong safety, a corner, nickel, or an edge defender, you maybe want to relax a little bit, force the ball where it needs to go first. Then you play with good, sound defensive structure. And that's what I've always called the hive defense. Leverage in the hive defense. I know I haven't mentioned the hive defense in a long time, but those of you that know that the hive defense is something that I created a long time ago. The name anyway, the defensive structure is pretty much the same as everybody else, but it's a lot of hats to the ball, right? And by providing a lot of hats to the ball and kind of creating that beehive mentality, you want to, the ball carrier's the queen. You want to get to the queen, right? You want to get as many defenders to that ball as you can. Well, you can't do that if you're, consistently firing and trying to make a tackle. You can't do that if you're consistently going and bending the arc and getting behind the quarterback. You can't do that if you just crash inside all the time. You can't do that if you, go 2 steps and then do a spin move and take your eyes off the ball and the runner goes to the outside. There's so many different situations that can come into play. Your eyes need to stay forward. You need to watch the ball while you're in, a stiff, battle with the guy in front of you if you're engaged. But for a corner, man, it's having that peripheral that I'm locked on the receiver, but I'm watching the ball, right? I'm watching the quarterback. I'm watching the running back at the same time. You can't do that when your back is turned and you're running. So what does that tell me? If Shep is wanting these guys to play with more leverage, your chest and your eyes need to be more forward. So where we've been a primary man defense, I've been saying this since December, January, we're going to be moving more towards zone. We'll still do man inside of zone, but we're going to go to more of that zone look and play more nickel defense so that we can have more faster bodies on the field and guys that can, get to the ball quicker, but guys that can play forward, right? Guys that have enough speed to be able to flip and run if they need to, but they play forward. So you're going to play a little bit more zone, a little bit more off man, and that's how you can win with more leverage. Inside leverage, I think when a corner is playing inside leverage against a receiver, they usually align slightly on the inside, right? And that really helps because you have a safety over top, or the outside towards, the boundary or wherever you're at that can help over top. And so his job is to prevent that receiver from crossing his face, getting to the inside, a slant route. You don't want him to cross his face. So if you're lined up on the inside, if that receiver gets over here, you lost. You flat out lost. But if you're inside and you're pushing, and that receiver is now running to the outside, you're winning, that safety comes down, bang, interception, right? Or makes the hit, dislodges the ball, whatever. Leverage in the run defense. I mean, I've already spoken about this a little bit, but again, the edge defender would want to keep his outside shoulder free, force the ball inside. The linebacker will fill that lane and make that tackle. This is exactly what I'm hoping Shep goes to and is going to do. I mean, the word has been out. I mean, the information that I had months ago has told us we were going here. And it's really no different than what they've been trying to do. I think that they're just going to do it a little bit better with more guys on the field that are a little bit faster. They've definitely changed the body type. They've changed the body size. They've gotten a little bit longer, right? Longer arms, longer bodies, but they've gotten a little bit faster because they've gotten a little bit lighter in certain areas too. Skylar Gill-Howard, I can't say enough about that dude in that interview. I wish I would have done a better interview that day. But that player, the more and more I think about that body type and why the Lions went in that direction, that was probably the last moment of when I, fully realized it's happening. Like the Lions are trying to get faster because the defenses that are winning, they're not just winning by, making offenses one-dimensional. They're winning because they are able to key diagnose, fit the run, but get there faster. And if you don't have guys with speed or guys with long arms that can make the tackle, then you're going to lose, right? It doesn't matter what defense you run. So I think that it's super important, to play with leverage at all phases, of the game. I don't care if it's pass coverage, run defense, inside leverage, outside leverage, trail leverage, whatever. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that, Dr. Colin. So anyway, leverage is key. And like I said, offensive lineman leverage that I mentioned earlier, lowering the pad level, proper hand placement, inside body position, balancing your feet, hips position between the defender and the ball. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it. All things that I've been learning over the last couple of years, some of the classes that I've taken with scouting. Leverage is definitely one of the things that I look at when I do watch film. I look at how they line up with leverage first, to be honest with you. It's not that they made the tackle. It's not that they got an interception. It's not that they ran for 50 yards, right? It's not that they caught the ball, right? It's body position, because the players that will have the most success at the next level understand leverage. That's what it's all about. The game of football is all about leverage. If you put yourself in a position to win and you can beat that player in front of you, you're going to win more often than you're not. So it's not that the Lions are doing something radically different in 2026. I think that they're just keying in an emphasis on making sure that leverage is the most important thing that they focus on. Maybe I should do this more in a video. I mean, I guess I just broke it down, but I could probably do it in a video as well when I get some time to. Maybe I could find some examples, or maybe I'll do it in an article where I can actually throw some video in there and you guys can watch it there too. All right, let's talk about the division for a moment. Rather be fishing. Yeah, exactly. Says that's where MMA, wrestling can really help. Hand fighting, learning leverage your body, to use their body to out leverage them. Exactly, man. Exactly. Hive defense. Trey says coined around 2012-ish. That wasn't me. That was just something that I use quite a bit. But way back when I coached, was probably 08, 09, no, 07. 07 might have been the first year that I think I coached my kids, 07, and then 08 and 09. Fun stuff, man. I miss coaching the little kids. I really do. So much fun. So much fun. Arch Nemesis, thanks for the jewels, man. I don't know what these things mean yet. I don't even know what they do. Appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about the defense, or the division for a moment. Where's the division really heading? And I think that the national conversation about the Lions is ramping up, or about the NFC North is ramping up. And everyone views the Lions as the legitimate NFC North contender, right? Lions are on top. Those that are trying to pump the Bears, spare me. Nobody is really handing the division back to the Lions, but at the same time, I think that they're understanding that the Lions are probably the most positioned to win, and to win, with the roster that they have, the coaching that they have, adding Drew Petzing, second year of Calvin Shepard. But I don't think that there's another offense in the league that can look around their room and really compare themselves one for one to what the Lions have. There's definitely not a team that has 5 legit offensive weapons on their offense, not named a quarterback, right? Not named a quarterback. Detroit has enough offensive talent to create real problems in every game against anybody. Jared Goff, still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Isaac Tesla is going to step into a major upgraded position this year of opportunity. Sam Laporta, being healthy, will be paramount to third down. And then Jahmyr Gibbs' usage in his role that we discussed, the other day is changing. And how much collectively those things change together, and how his usage will benefit everybody else. The weapons, with a rebuilt offensive line, giving Goff a little bit of, more time and open pocket to throw from. This is where Drew Petzing is going to make nightmares a reality for defenses. Just give him a little bit of time. That's all Goff needs, just like any quarterback, but especially a pocket quarterback. He just needs a little bit of time. And by a little bit, like 2.6 seconds is not unfair to ask of your offensive line. If you can get him up to 2.75, there ain't no way a defense is going to stop us if you give him that much time. I know it doesn't sound like a lot of time because it's not. But if you look at the average time to throw, it's different unless you're looking at it from a pass-only perspective or all offense perspective. Those two times are different. And versus active pass rush, those times are different too. 2.6 to 2.7 is usually an active pass rush type of a time. When there's no active pass rush, that time should be able to get closer to 2.9 to 3 seconds, and that's all day for Jared Goff. We know that it's all day. When he's under pressure and he's flipping the ball at 2.6, he's still connecting more times than most other quarterbacks in the league. Defensively, Aiden Hutchinson, will have consistent help behind him now with the players that we brought in. Derek Moore has, a little bit of a ways to go. Peyton Turner just needs, again, to be a role player, just like Derek Moore needs to be a role player. Peyton doesn't have to come in and lock it down. He doesn't have to come in and be a shell of Aiden Hutchinson or a duplicate of Aiden Hutchinson, and neither does DJ Wanham. They don't all have to be stars. They just have to do their job. But Detroit now doesn't have to ask Aiden to create pressure on himself by playing so many snaps. And so giving Aiden a break is making Detroit better, not worse. I know that's hard to understand for some people, but giving Aiden a break is making Detroit better, not worse. I know a lot of you don't agree with me. Aiden's defense has gotten better against the run. It is not where we want it. He still ranks near the bottom. Maybe not PFF score, could care less, but he still ranks near the bottom with his ADOT. And that's where, I have a problem. His average depth of tackle in the run game is extremely low. And AQM was one of the lowest last year, and Aiden wasn't far behind him. I think he was like 120th in the league, and AQM was like 150th in the league, and that's terrible. So you can't have your edge defenders both terrible against the run. And so that needs to get better in a hurry, and it will. So the real conversation entering camp is, where is the NFC North headed here in 2026? Which rosters got better? How much did they get better? Who has the talent to win the division? And there's a lot of unanswered questions, obviously, in a concentrated area of reshaped rosters for all teams. The most important questions to answer, probably protection, offensive line, pass rush, who got better, who got deeper. Secondary, again, who got better, who got deeper. And then the coordinator execution, who got better over last year. Lions got better. And is Ben Johnson in his second full season going to be better for the Bears? Right? Those are all the major, I think, storylines. When you look at the top two teams right now, the Bears belong at the top. Not from a perspective that they're number one in the division. It's just they were given the division last year. So they're the ones that you got to unseat, right? That's the team you got to beat from last year. But that doesn't mean that I think that the Bears can win it this year. I don't think they're even going to come close. Green Bay, they're building around one word. News out of Green Bay, after some conversations that I had over this week and last week, is finish. Finish. That is what Green Bay wants to do. They're able to get in games. The Packers are not avoiding, the way that last season ended. But Green Bay was sitting at 9-3-1 before losing 4 straight regular season games and blowing a major lead in a playoff loss to Chicago. Christian Watson says the collapse really fueled the offseason, and the word finish is what is becoming one of the team's central messages here for 2026. Had they just won 1 extra game or 2 extra games, it's a different season for them, right? Detroit should assume that the Packers will arrive in camp motivated, right? Healthier, determined to correct those late game failures. Watson got a big deal this year. He, feels healthy, right? Which could make or break Green Bay's passing attack. It could make it more dangerous. And then the rookie that they brought in last year, Matthew Golden, is he going to be available? To what extent is he going to be available? And is he going to be better than he was last year because he didn't do squat? When Watson is available, though, his speed really changes how defenses play Jordan Love, and it kind of creates more room underneath. The Lions cannot count on Green Bay repeating last year's collapse or repeating last year's mistakes. They have to repair for a team that believes, has learned from those issues. The biggest question is whether the Packers' ending of last season, dropping 4 straight, broke their confidence or really hardened their approach for 2026. And obviously the Lions are going to find out soon enough, but that's the question that I have. Are they still the same team that they were last year? Did they even really get better, year to year? Is Jordan Love going to get better? I've said it from the very jump. Jordan Love is not an elite quarterback. I don't know why people keep putting Jordan Love in an elite quarterback conversation. It doesn't make any sense to me. He hasn't shown anything to date that makes him a better quarterback than Jared Goff or a better quarterback than 9 other quarterbacks in the league. So I just don't see where Green Bay is going to make a markedly, different change this year than who they were last year. Micah Parsons being injured may or may not be able to make camp, may or may not be available for the beginning of the season. That is a huge loss for them. And what is his season going to look like anyway, coming off a major injury? So they sunk a lot of chips into that ship, and that ship sunk last year. So there's too many questions surrounding Green Bay. I don't see Green Bay finishing near the top. I've got them. I think I had them I took all that down, but I think I have them in third place. Is where we, way early predictions. I had Green Bay in third place. Let's talk about the Bears. Are they a surprise anymore? I don't know. Was it a one-year wonder last year? Look how pitiful it was last year for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams cannot repeat a dreadful 52% or 54% completion percentage. I think it's 54-1 or whatever. He can't repeat that and expect the Bears to be better, right? The Bears are not entering 2026 as just interesting building or rebuilding team anymore. They are entering it as defending NFC North champs by default. You can tell I hate the Bears. I hate the way that they got the damn thing because they didn't earn it, in my opinion. It was given to them on a Saturday while they were drinking milk. But Ben Johnson's offense, it still has room to grow. Like I'm not blind. I'm not blind at all here. Caleb Williams has a ton of room to grow. The question is, can he do it? Is Caleb Williams a quarterback that will be different than any other quarterback in Chicago? Your guess is as good as mine. But if he goes from 54%, we'll call it, to 65% completion rate, that changes the dynamic for the Bears and how successful their offense can be. However, it still relies on him being able to see the defense, read the defense, make good decisions, and then you have to have a run game behind it. He could complete 65% of his passes, but the bottom could fall out and they don't have a run game, right? He could complete 65% of his passes and the defense fall apart and they can't hold teams under 22 points. So it all hinges on if Caleb can make a huge step forward, but you have to look at all the pieces around him too. And then you have to look at the fact that it's not just Ben Johnson in the offense that can win. The Lions have been trying to do that for a while. They did that with Ben Johnson. They won. They scored a lot of points. They broke a lot of records. They put a lot of yards up. What did we get at the end of it? Nothing. So if Ben goes and repeats the same thing that he did in Detroit, it's not going to finish well on the other side. So Caleb is one part of it. Ben Johnson's offense is still another part of it. Like I said, they have room to grow. Caleb's entering year 2 in the system. Roma Dunze gives Chicago, an outside playmaker. Luther Burden was coming on last year. That was a really good pickup for them. He could have a major year 2 step up. And then Colston Loveland. I mean, what an amazing rookie season for him. That really gives Johnson some matchup weapons, across that offensive front. The bigger question, I think, is what are they going to do in the backfield? And, is their run game going to be, the same as what it was last year? They had Kyle Monangai, who kind of came out of nowhere, and DeAndre Swift. So this year, they're entering, the same phase, as they were last year at this time with DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monangai, Roshan Johnson. They added Britton Brown, Coleman Bennett, Salvin Ahmed. So they have a deep running back room, but it's the two in front, DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, both 5'8", both a little over 200 pounds. Neither one of them is a bruiser back. Both of them are more of a speed back, and they both can catch passes out of the backfield. So for me, it's Caleb has to be able to utilize all the weapons on the offense, not run around, not make mistakes, right? Not throw these fourth and long bombs that turn into interceptions. It's all about making good decisions. So the challenge for Detroit, I think, is Johnson's system really creates stress throughout the formations. We know that. We know him well. The motion, the spacing, the misdirection, all the same things that we do. And it's going to be even different and better this year with Drew Petzing. But the Bears do not need every player to really dominate individually if their structure keeps creating favorable matchups. The question is the defense and the defensive questions. And can Caleb Williams help create those individual or favorable matchups by making good decisions? The Bears pass rush opposite of Montez Sweat, I hate to use the word opposite, but just to paint the picture, is a question, right? The interior run defense and the changes in the secondary, they give the Lions areas to attack offensively. I'm not worried about the Lions offense at all against Chicago, at all. The question is our defense against their offense. And after what we did to them in week 2 last year, and then ending the year the way that we did, still winning, but it was a little bit of a tighter game in bad weather. I would say that going up against the number 1 schedule and really seeing some fierce competition this year for their first time, this is going to challenge Ben Johnson. It's going to challenge their defense. And Chicago as more of a difficult path to getting back to the NFC North than anyone else. The Lions formula against Chicago really shouldn't change a whole lot. It's physical. It's protect Goff. You want to run through the interior against that defense, force the Bears to tackle, and make Williams really sustain long drives against a disciplined defense. And I think all those things are relative, and I think all those things will happen. Minnesota. That's a good point by Trace, too. Their offense has to be more consistent throughout the game instead of having to come back almost every time because of one side or both are struggling. It's a great point because last year there was 4, 5, 6, 7? Was it 7 games that were decided in the fourth quarter? I think it was, or like some sort of a last minute or 4 minute, 4 minutes to go in the game, and the Bears ended up winning. That's not going to happen this year, right? A lot of those lucky throw it up catches. Okay, so he completed 4 Hail Marys last season. It's extremely lucky, right? How well did that work for Aaron Rodgers over the course of his career? He won 1 Super Bowl in 1997, and that was it. You can't get lucky at the end of a game every time and expect to do that against better teams. And it didn't happen against us. So it's not going to happen again. Now, Minnesota is they're at a crossroads this year because they don't have a quarterback, right? Or they do, but they don't. It just came out a little while ago that I guess J.J. McCarthy has been suffering from ADHD. And why wasn't this known or understood prior to him being drafted? I don't know that if it was or if it wasn't. Or was it recently diagnosed? Maybe I misread the story. But whether or not he has ADHD or not, is that just an excuse? Is someone pumping this story to make an excuse for his play? I don't know. But bringing in Kyler Murray was one of the quarterback options that I thought could end up going there. But however, the story still is that dude is not that great of a quarterback either. I mean, he can make some surprising plays like Caleb Williams. He can use his feet, but that's not what Minnesota wants. That is not what Minnesota thrives on. Minnesota wants a Sam Darnold that can get back there and pluck guys like JJ wide open. That's not Kyler Murray's game. Kyler Murray, if he's moving his feet around and dancing in and out of the pocket, that is not conducive for how this offense runs in Minnesota. So I think that not having a pure pocket passer or a pocket passer that can move, that is going to create a lot of problems for the Minnesota's offense. Now, their defense may still be good, but their offense is not going to click, or at least it hasn't yet. So the Vikings really didn't produce any major roster headlines, recently. They lost a couple of really good players in the front of their defense. They're still a central, part of this season for the Lions' answer of, winning the NFC North because, well, we lost some games last year that we shouldn't have. Kevin O'Connell's offense forces opponents to communicate. The Vikings use spacing. They use route combinations. They use a lot of movement to create hesitation in the secondary. They get you to bite and commit. But how are they going to do that with Kyler Murray? I think it's different. One missed assignment from a defense can really turn into a complete pass or an explosive play downfield. The question is, can Kyler Murray do that? Is he able to do that and create the confidence in the receivers that he can get the ball downfield. I think it places even more, of an importance on Detroit's safety and nickel competition this year. Heading into July, those competitions are going to be extremely important, not only for the rest of the league, but for the NFC North. We have some extremely good wide receivers that we go against in the NFC North. The Lions need defensive backs that can pass routes off cleanly, leverage, tackle after the catch, and disguise coverage without creating, a lot of separation or confusion between their scheme in the backfield. Minnesota may not receive the same attention as Chicago, or Green Bay over the last week or two, and I don't think that they should, honestly. But the Vikings are still capable of exposing weaknesses on any defense or against any defense, but our back end is where we need to have the most contained. And that is where the defensive front, I think, against teams like Minnesota are going to be more important in this game. The defensive back is going to have to lock in. The defensive front is going to have to get after Kyler Murray. So we're going to see that contained game like we did see last year against Lamar Jackson, probably against Minnesota if Kyler Murray's in the game. And even to a lesser extent, if J.J. McCarthy somehow wins the starting, quarterback position, we can't let him run. You can't. He can make plays with his feet. He just doesn't make a whole lot of plays with his arm. So the Lions need to build that defense that can handle the three phases completely, and all three NFC, opponents completely. And providing a different style of a defense to each team, I think, is the creativity that Calvin Shepard is going to have to come to bat with this year. The safety room cannot be treated as a minor camp battle. And it's not. It's not. The Lions aren't resting on who they have, right? They still want to see Brian Branch get back in. They still want to see Kirby Joseph, get on the field. But they can't treat this as a minor camp battle. They have to go into week one full confidence, full stop. They have to have players to make the plays. So that's kind of my NFC North take for the week on where I see things kind of as of today. There's a lot of questions with all four teams. The biggest question is who is going to come out of July and August ready and making the necessary adjustments to handle what the other teams are able to throw at them. One of the bigger things that has come out, during this offseason for the Lions is not having any training camp opponents, not having, any teams that they're going to go up against this year in training camp. 28 teams out of the league are going to face a different opponent in training camp. The Lions will not for the first time in a few seasons. They're going to be going up against each other. It's going to be a stale, grinded out kind of a training camp. Is that going to make us better? I think the Lions are trying to hide what they're doing, which is smart. Is that going to make us better, though? Are we going to finally see, that other opponent in preseason? Sources that I know have said that it sounds like the Lions are going to put first teams in at least early in some of these preseason games to get a better look, to get them, ready for the season. And I think that that's a smart move. It's not that you want to risk injury, right? But I think you need to take a shot with your guys. Hopefully injuries don't happen. But if it's going to happen in preseason, it's going to happen in the regular season. And I hate to be a worrywart like that. Get the guys in there because it could happen in camp, right? It could happen in camp that these guys could get injured. So it is what it is. What time we got? 10:30. Oh my God, what happened? Scouting to the Max just said, did anyone see that Matt Miller from ESPN had to have his left arm amputated after a horrible accident? That's terrible, dude. The Talking Football guys, one of them is related to Matt Miller. That's terrible. That is freaking terrible. Really sorry to hear that, man. I didn't hear about that at all. J Mommy says, I believe that Reed and Clark are going to be a solid back of the backfield. I think so too, man. Look, I think that Clark is much better than what I expected. I mean, he's always been a good player, right? He's always been a good player, but where he is right now mentally, in the way that he was, speaking to the media and, some of the things that he was saying, I didn't expect. I didn't expect how cool, calm, and collected he really was, how intelligent you could see, or hear the words coming out of his mouth. Like, he's intelligent. And that's what you need, man. You need guys back there that know football. But you also need guys that are intelligent. There's a difference between football smarts and being intelligent. You have to have football smarts. But if you're not intelligent, sometimes your lack of intelligence will overweigh your football smarts. If that made any sense. Looking at his history, he's been in the league since 2017. He's played a lot of ball. Played a lot of ball for Baltimore. 6 seasons in Baltimore, 1 year with the Jets, and 1 year with Pittsburgh last year. And his numbers have been pretty consistent. He's not, at the top of the league. He's not at the bottom of the league. But he's been pretty damn consistent. And that's what you like to see. A player that goes in every single year and you know what you're going to get from him. If you have to worry, that I may get this player, I may get that player this year, I don't know who I'm getting this year. That's too much risk. When you have a player that is, kind of straight lined, just the perfect little heartbeat, that's what you need back there is someone that can just handle it. He's not too far left. He's not too far, right. He's just right. His porridge is just the right temp. You know what I mean? And that's what Chuck Clark is. His porridge is just the right temp. And so he's going to be back there. He's going to stabilize the defense for the Lions, especially if Kirby Joseph is out. And then even when Kirby Joseph is back in, hopefully, I think that it's going to be a shared snap situation. And that's where you could potentially protect Kirby from himself. You could extend Kirby's career at least this year, because I think this is the year the Lions couldn't walk away from that contract. Next year, the Lions can walk away and it won't be as bad. So I think that that's where the Lions are faced this year. They have to get through this year with Kirby, and the next year they have to make a decision. And if he can't play, to the degree that he's been able to play, if he can't play a significant amount of snaps, or if he suffers another injury and he can't play, quickly, then I think that we understand what the next move is. And Kirby wouldn't be on the team, this year or next year. We'll see what happens in camp. I'm not even I'm prepared that Kirby may not be on the roster. I'm prepared for that. And that would suck because the Lions are going to eat a lot of dead cap. And I think that's why you really have to wait until next year. We'll see where it goes. But, man, I would love to see Kirby be able to play again. I don't have a good feeling about it. And the Lions are holding a lot back. They're holding a lot back because I don't think that they have a good answer, that they're ready to share. Not that it matters, but I'm looking at Clark's history here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 seasons. He's only let up 19 TDs in 8 seasons. That's what, 2.25? 2.25 a year? That's pretty low. That's extremely low. It's 2.375 touchdowns a year on average. And he had 2 years that he had 4 touchdowns. 1 in 24 and 1 in 21. Last year, he only let up 2. Now, he doesn't have a ton of interceptions. That's not his game. His game is just playing solid defense. He has been in the backfield a few times, six sacks. So he has been used, in situations in and around the line of scrimmage at times. His missed tackle percentage is great. It's 9%. Even the yardage allowed. I mean, when you look at Clark, here, let me just throw this on the screen. Oh, shoot, closed it. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, come on. There you go. Even when you look at what he's done from year to year to year, I got to make it bigger. Hold on. There we go. So when you look at what he's done year to year to year, he's been really consistent. So we'll look at, slide this over to missed tackle percentage right here in the middle, 9%. I need the key up because I can't really tell what is what. I need to switch over to the other program. God, I think F's is fumbles. I can't tell. But anyway, yards 1791 over 8 seasons. 1791. He's given up 224 yards a year. 224 yards a year. You divide that by 17 games, that's 13 yards a game on average. 13 yards a game. He's given up 828 yards of yak. That's included in that 1791. He's only had 3 really big plays, 37, a 50, and a 42. You know, he's at a 26, a 28, a 21, a 24. I mean, those are going to happen. But that's probably happening once or twice a season at most. At most, right? Interceptions really low, none for the last 3 years. And then he had 5, the previous 4 years or 5 years. Penalties pretty low, right? 4 last year was one of his highest. 1 the year before, then 4, then 4. So I mean, that's not terrible, right? It's not terrible. I'm sorry, yeah, right here. 1 last year, 4 the year before, 4 the year before that, 8 in 2020. I mean, those years are over, but 21 penalties over the last 8 years. And those are his snaps. Like, well, I don't really care about the snaps. Oh, I guess we could look at where he lined up. He lines up in free safety most often, right? Strong safety a little bit, but not as much. And then corner a few times a year. Obviously depends on the alignment that they're going to be in. He might be at corner a little bit more. It just depends on what the Lions do this season. Defensively, once we get to see the scheme come together. I'm excited about Chuck Clark, man. I really am. He's played extremely well so far. It's early. No pads, just like everybody else. No pads. And NFL news, really don't have much to share outside of Sorsby today. But now I want to show you one other thing before I leave today. And I'll do this in a video too, because this is I think it's important to show you guys how all this will work. You're gonna love this. If you haven't used it, you're gonna love it. Okay. Let's see. Let me throw this on the screen here. So I want to show you a little bit of Draft Sharks for a moment. Now, I have a lot more research to do on this site so I can, comfortably explain more things. But so far, really impressed. So if you guys are going to join the fantasy leagues this year, one, do it. Just do it. Let's have some fun. But two, this is Draft Sharks. So DFJ Sports Fantasy Leagues, Sleeper. See how it says Sleeper right there? I don't know if let me make that bigger. See how it says Sleeper? So it's already pulled in one of my leagues, right? And then Sleeper, where's my leagues? I have 2 leagues over here. You can see that. One of them is pulled in right now. All right, one of them is pulled in. So if I want to go pull in this, and this is, if you pay for this service, it's not much money at all. It's really not much money at all. But you have all of these cool features, like I have the featured articles, right? I'm wondering if I can write for them. But you have all these featured articles, so it helps you, understand what's going on, with all the players, all the current information, yada, yada, yada. News, same thing. It's talking about Denzel Boston building his case for targets. Kyle Pitts. It has all the recent news in here so that it could affect your team, right? David Montgomery, the cheapest 3-down back in fantasy football. Isaiah Bond, that unique story going on in Cleveland where they just drafted KC Concepcion and Denzel Boston in April, but Isaiah Bond is getting all the targets, right? They talk about, what's happening for all the players, what to expect. And then you have this advice, right? So if you want to go into latest articles, you could go into latest articles. Or let's just say we're going to go to Dynasty League categories. No, I want to go to advice. Go view all. How about that? So which Jaguars wide receiver should you trust? Or Malik Neighbors' knee challenges his outlook. You may not know that unless you have Draft Sharks, right? Best fantasy football tools and software. Fantasy football draft guide, 12-team PPR draft strategy. Fantasy football sleepers, 2026. Sneaky good, stupid cheap. So a lot of good advice, a lot of good information in here, and it just keeps going and going and going. And then you have rankings. We'll go PPR league. Tells you all the rankings. Strength of schedule, injury risk, floor projection, consensus projection, ceiling, kind of where you should be looking at drafting these guys. So Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bashan Robinson, and McCaffrey, all, the top guys drafted immediately. So if you're, third in line, well, you want Jahmyr Gibbs, you should probably get him early, right? Or if you're first in line, well, you got a decision to make. Can you trust Puka Nacua, or are you going to go right at Jahmyr Gibbs? I know who I'd be taking. It'd be Jahmyr Gibbs. But it has all this information in here, and you can't get it unless it's, you pay for the system, right? But if I want to use my league, so now it's going to customize my scoring to my league and how my league is ranked or how my league's points are made, because I, change things with the points. So now it tells you how you should draft or who are the highest ranked based on how my league is set up. So when I change things like, a quarterback is going to get a point for every 10 yards versus every 30. Well, not every league is set up that way. You might get a point for every 30 yards a quarterback throws versus 10. Or does a quarterback get 6 points if they throw a touchdown versus 1 point? So that's the unique thing about this and how it works. Now, let's say I want to go to my leagues and I want to bring in my league to do this. So I'm going to add a league. I'm going to go up here where it says league setup explained. Or I'm sorry, add a league. Down here, bottom left, I'm going to add a league. I'm going to sync my league. Well, I've already added the extension to my system for Draft Shark. So I'm going to go sync my league. Well, which league am I playing in? ESPN, Yahoo Sports, Sleeper, CBS. It pulls all the leagues in. Well, I'm going to go to Sleeper. It's now going and talking to Sleeper for me. Oh, I've got 2 leagues over there, right? Well, I need to select the league to sync. I forget which one I already synced. Well, let's just sync this one. So it's going to pull it in. And now hit continue. I'll just hit continue. I'll hit continue to get through it. We've only got 3 people signed up so far. It tells me I'm in, BG Surge Mocker's in, Uper Lights is in. We still need 9 more people to sign up. I'll hit continue, and now I can go to my draft war room, and now my league is brought into Draft Sharks. And it's going to know everything about my draft. You can actually do your draft from here. You don't even have to be in Sleeper. And it will tell you exactly what decisions you should make, how you should make your decisions, and why. And you can do mock drafts. You can do all sorts of stuff in here to make yourself smarter. You have a mock draft trainer, and it can train you on your leagues. But there's a lot to study. There's a lot for me to learn about all this. But I will tell you right now, yeah, there you go. Pulled both my leagues in. So I got both my leagues in here. All your leagues in one place. Like, that's the most important thing. You don't have to go from league to league to league or website to website to website anymore. You simply just need Draft Sharks, and it'll change everything for how you play fantasy football, how smart you are, and maybe if you will win a championship this year. I know I plan on winning one. I'm actually going to pay attention this year. Oh my God, I definitely did not miss any important news there, Attila. So, all right, y'all have been great. Appreciate y'all joining this morning. I will get all of this stuff for Draft Sharks put together. Hopefully this week. I'm just waiting for them to communicate to me a couple of things on my promo code. They already built my website, so I'll have a link that'll bring you to my website. And then when you select your packages in there, if you're going to join, of course, we get an affiliate compensation for that, but you also will get like 30, 40, 50% off by using my code or my website. So that'll be something that we added this year to help people save money, number one, and obviously, partner up with a great company organization like Draft Sharks. They're going through a full website update, and once that's done, I should have all my information hopefully this week. So that's it for today. Y'all been wonderful. Probably won't see you tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday. I might see you tomorrow morning. And if I can't do tomorrow morning, I will try to do tomorrow night. The second week of July, so like July 6th forward, I know I'll be off that whole week. I've got some things I got to do there. And then I guess wish me luck, man. I got to go put in some offers and go knock this deal out the park and get this house all set up. So you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Go in pride. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Pressured by Hutchinson. He goes down again.